Hey sock knitters, welcome back. This is step 2 of our step-by-step sock knit along, where we're just knitting this sock slowly, step by step, and I'm going to walk you through it, pun intended, every step of the way. Okay, so you should have gotten your cuff done, just 2x2 ribbing, about 1.5 inches or whatever looks good to you. So I've got mine here. Mine is I think I counted 16 rows. So now I'm just going to choose a pattern for the leg of my sock. I like to have the leg of my sock be about 4 inches. Now, when you measure, what I do to kind of determine that, it depends whether I'm wearing big, tall winter snow boots or whether I'm wearing hikers or whatever. But I usually like the leg of my sock to be 4 or 5 inches. Okay, I don't like really tall ones, but I don't want ankle socks either. So what you can do is your outside ankle bone, the little knobby that you have on the outside of your ankle, measure from there up and see what you think about the length of your sock. And that's the beauty of cuff down socks. You can always try it on as you go. So if you knit 3 inches and you slip that over your ankle, see if it goes over easily, and you pull that up above the little knobby bone on the outside of your ankle and it feels good, then there you go. You're ready to start the heel flap with me next time. So today, though, we're going to investigate some different stitch patterns for what you can use for the leg of your sock. Now, I have 72 stitches on my socks, so I chose that because I have lots of options as far as multiples of 4, 6, 8, or 12. So that's pretty handy. Now, I have a stitch dictionary that I can look in. If you don't have one, I'm going to put some options in the video description down below, and you can click through some of those links, see what you might like. Feel free to ask questions in the Facebook and the Ravelry group. So I have Barbara Walker's Treasury of Knitting Patterns. And I've had this for years. It's a really good book. And I was just coming through here looking at some ribbing patterns because ribbing is super stretchy. So that's forgiving if you haven't knit a sock before. And there's one called a ripple stitch rib. And it just kind of weaves back and forth like this. And it's only a 4-stitch repeat. So the point is that would be easy enough to fit into what I have going on with my stitch count. Okay. The other couple of books I have is Sensational Knitted Socks by Charlene Schurch. And these are stitch dictionary and patterns, and they're actually broken up by the number of stitches that you have in a repeats. And then she has all these cool charts that you can size things up or down. So what's neat about this, for example, is like here's an 8-stitch repeating patterns. So I'll put some links to these books down below if you're interested. The one I'm choosing is Judy Becker's Snake River Sock. I've knitted this pattern, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. And what I like so much is that it kind of looks like cables, but it's not. And it kind of flows back and forth like this. It's enough to keep you interested, but not too difficult. But it's not just knitting round and round in vanilla. Now, the other option, if you're new to sock knitting and you just want to make a vanilla sock, that's totally fine. It's great TV knitting. There's nothing wrong with that at all. If you just want to go after the cuff, you can either carry on with the 2x2 ribbing all the way down the leg. If you want to do that, that's fine. If you want to just start knitting round and round, also fine. I'll put some links, like I said, 14 times. I'll put some links down below for options, and I have knitted most of these, but a couple of them I have not, but they look like really straightforward patterns and they're all free. I should clarify that the Snake River Socks by Judy Becker are written to be knit toe up, and they use a heel flap and gusset that is opposite of how I usually do my heel flap for toe up socks. So they're opposite of my customizable toe up sock. All I'm doing with this is simply using the chart for the stitch pattern that I want. So I'm only going to print page 2 of this to show you. So if you want to knit along with me, I'll show you exactly how I'm going to adapt this pattern for our purposes here. If you want to choose one of the other patterns that I've linked down below, then awesome, do that. So all we're looking for here is a stitch pattern with a repeat that fits into the number of stitches you have cast on. Okay, so that's all I'm doing is borrowing the chart from Judy Becker's Snake River Socks to use for my purpose. All right, as I've mentioned, I'm just using page 2 of this pattern because all I want here is this chart. Now there are abbreviations up here for what you're going to do. Now these are increases that lean to the right and lean to the left, and I'll show you how I'm going to manage those. There's also decreases that are slip, slip, knit, and knit 2 together. I'm going to show you how I like to do the lifted increases to the right and to the left. Okay, so even though this is written for toe up, I'm still going to go ahead and start at row 1 and read a chart just like I normally would. Now, if you haven't learned how to read a knitting chart, I do have a video for that I'll link in the description down below. But the short version is you're just going to read the chart from right to left, going across in the round at row 1, and then move up to row 2 and carry on like that. The other thing I'll point out real quick, and Judy Becker mentions this in this pattern, is that this is based on a more traditional pattern where instead of doing lifted increases here, you could just do a yarn over. So you could make every single one of these a yarn over if you want a more lacy look and you don't want to worry about the lifted increases. You could totally do that where I've made these circles here, print the pattern and do your own, and all of those could become yarn overs if you'd rather. Because the idea is here you have an increase and a decrease, so you're keeping your same stitch count the same, and you could achieve that easily enough by doing a yarn over and then a decrease, yarn over, decrease, decrease, yarn over. So that creates a more of a lacy open look. It just depends on what you prefer. Okay, the one thing I'll note that you'll want to do if you're knitting this along with me is I usually like to start with a knit stitch on my ribbing. However, this starts with a purl. I want my purl rows, my purl columns, to line up with the columns that I already have going on in the ribbing. So I am actually just going to shuffle things over a little bit. You'll notice this starts with one purl stitch, but then there's one at the end of the repeat. So those two purl stitches will end up matching up side by side. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just knit these first 3 stitches in the established ribbing that I have. So I'm going to knit 2 and purl 1. And the reason that I'm doing that is I kind of want to change where the beginning of my round is. So if you have a beginning of the round marker, go ahead and put that now, because I want to start the chart right where there's 1 purl so that it matches up. This pattern is going to match up with my ribbing, and my ribbing is just going to flow right into the faux cable waviness. You'll see how that's going to work when we get a few rows in. Okay, so since this is my new beginning of the round, I am going to go ahead and take my magic loop through and put that on the back. I'm going to put that on the back needle. So I actually am beginning this needle with the beginning of my round. So I'm going to purl 1, and then I'm going to knit 6, purl 1, and carry on like that the whole way around. So now I'm on the 8th stitch, that's the purl. Then I begin the row 1 again with a purl. So you can see how I have my 2 purls matched up now, and it matches up with my previous ribbing. Okay, one other thing to note, if you're knitting the same 72 stitches as I am, then you have 36 on each needle. Now this is an 8-stitch pattern repeat, and 36 is not divisible by 8. So you will have half of your chart on the end of the first needle, and then half on the second. So just be aware of that and realize that the second half is not going to begin here with purl, this purl stitch. It's going to be in the middle with stitch number 4. So because of that, you might want to have one of those clip-on beginning of the round markers, or I know that this side has the tail, so that's the beginning of the round. The other thing I'll point out here is because I have 36 stitches on each needle, and that's not divisible by 8, I have split the chart. The chart is split in half where my needle junction is, and so right now I have 1 stitch left here, but I need to do the slip slip knit. So you know, at some point I'm probably going to rearrange all the stitches on my needle just so that I don't have the chart straddling my needle junction. And if you're using DPNs, you can arrange that however you like. I have 9 repeats of the chart for my 72 stitches here. So what I'm going to do on the next round is just shuffle everything so I have 40 stitches on one side and 32 on the other. Okay, if you're knitting this along with me, then I'm on row 3, and I'm just going to do that first purl. Then I'm going to show you how to do a right leaning increase. Now I'm going to show you this fairly slowly here, but I also have another video that shows in different colored yarn a more in-depth version, so I'll put that link down below. So, but if you're going to do a right leaning increase, we're just going to take the stitch from the row below the tan stitch, go into that, and simply lift it up onto the left-hand needle and knit into that without splitting it. So there's your increase by 1. So that's super simple. And then that's your increase stitch. And then we're going to knit 2. And then per the pattern, we're going to go slip, slip, knit. So slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, and then you're essentially knitting into the back loop of those. Okay. And then we're going to knit 2. and then we should be into the purl section. So you're just going to repeat that all the way around. So again, let me show you that right lifted increase one more time, and then we'll go through rows 3 through 7, actually till row 11. I'll show you the left leaning increases. So again, you're going to take your right hand needle and go in under the loop below the one that's on the needle. Lift that right up onto the left hand needle and knit into it. And I give it a little pull just to make sure my stitch isn't too tight. Okay. Again, if you want to see that in super slow, I have the link down below about doing lifted increases specifically. Okay, and then we're going to go slip, slip, knit, knit 2. Okay, I'll see you, if you're knitting along with me, I'll see you on row 11. All right, we've begun row 11 where we just purl 1 and knit 2, and now we're going to knit 2 together because we're going to do left leaning lifted increases that slant the other direction. So we knit 2 together and then knit 2 more. And when we do a left leaning increase, we're drawing the stitch from the left side of the one we've just knitted. So we're going to go down a couple of rows to the second row below the stitch that's on the needle and pick that up. Now you'll notice that if you were to knit into this, I split that, so I was just fixing it. If you were to knit into this like normal, you would be twisting the stitch. When we picked it up, the stitch mount is 180 degrees off what it normally would be. So we're going to knit into the back loop of that to correct it. Okay, don't worry, I'll show you that again in just a moment. We'll purl these 2. Okay, then we're going to knit the next 2, do our decrease, or our knit 2 together here. Okay, knit 2, and then we're going to do our left leaning lifted increase again. So you have the stitch, the loop that's on the needle, then you have the next one down, but we want the one below that. So we want that lighter kind of an orange color. All right. And if you have a little trick, if you have trouble getting that separated from the rest, just go right into the middle of the stitch and then lean your needle backward to get a hold of it, and then knit into the back loop of that. Now the reason that we have to go down a little further is because we've already knitted the stitch that we're increasing. Okay, now that one's a little bit more difficult than the right leaner, so I'll show you one more time and then we'll just carry on knitting through the chart. So normally when we do, just to clarify, normally when we do a right leaning increase, you're picking up the leg of the stitch below the loop that's on the needle. But because we've already knitted that one, now take notice that's that lavender color one, because we've already knitted this stitch, we still need that very same one, but it appears to, it is one row lower now that we've knitted the one that was on the needle before. Okay, so pick that up, knit into the back, and then carry on. I've knitted through the chart twice, and I really like this pattern. I just like how it looks like you have cables, but you really don't. It's just increases and decreases, and it's, you know, it's not super difficult, but it's enough to keep your interest. So I'm probably going to do one more chart repeat, so that'll add another inch or so, and then I'll try it on and see if I like the length of the leg, see how it fits and what I think about doing another repeat, or if I'll just stop at 3 full chart repeats. Okay, thanks for joining me for the step-by-step sock tutorial. I hope you're enjoying it. Show me the leg of your sock in the Facebook or the Ravelry group, and be sure to let me know if you have any questions. All right, I'll see you Wednesday where we'll start the heel flap. Thanks for watching.